to the Feeding Our Young podcast. Have you ever heard the phrase, nurses eat their young? Feeding Our Young is more than a podcast. It's a movement. It's a desire to see new nurses of all ages be supported and uplifted by their peers. And it starts with me. It starts with you. So join host Eric Miller, registered nurse for nearly 20 years, an adjunct clinical instructor, and today's honored guest, me, Tera Tveit, and be ready to have your life lifted so you can, in turn, lift others up. Welcome to Feeding Our Young podcast.
Hello and welcome to this amazing episode of Feeding Our Young. I am, as I always am, so excited to introduce the absolutely lovely human being I have in studio with us today. But before I do that, a little disclaimer. I'm going to introduce her by her first name. Her first name is Tera, and I'm not going to touch her last name with a 10-foot pole because it's very uniquely spelled, it's very uniquely pronounced, and everybody's going to hear this and go, oh, are you a moron? If maybe that's what Tera's thinking right now. But regardless, you'll at least see why I'm not going to disrespect her that way. Tera, welcome to the studio. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so glad this worked out. And also, a little peek behind the scenes for everybody. Someone's doing this on their anniversary, and it's not me.
I know. I thought about it, but I knew it's not like we had all day planned, so it was over just fine.
Exactly. Like, it's not like, you guys aren't going away. I'll let you all unpack that business, but thank you for being here on such a special day. I feel honored to share the day in the both of you. We'll just pull your husband in, let him say a few words. I'm just kidding. So Tera, why won't I touch your last name? Please introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them who you are. And if you just want to lead right into what schools did you attend? When did you graduate? And with what degrees?
Sure. So my last name is spelled Tveit. It's Norwegian and it's pronounced Tveit. So that's why Eric was not going to touch that. And a lot of people do that as well. I remember waiting for a prescription once at Rite Aid, and over the loudspeaker, I kept hearing this weird name, but it wasn't mine. And then I finally they just used my first name. I'm like, oh yeah. So yeah, I get it.
If I can ask, how many different ways have you heard it pronounced? If you don't mind throwing a few out there.
A lot of different ways. And some of them not very. They're kind of rated X, and it's like, let's not go.
Oh,
A lot of people like to throw a W in there, and
yeah, all right, okay,
yeah.
We'll just leave that as it is. Sorry, continue.
That's okay. I grew up here in the Valley, and I did my education a little bit different than everybody else, probably. I went for a year at Eastern Washington University, kind of freaked out because my grades weren't as good as they should have been to get in. They weren't a 3.7, I should say that.
Gotcha.
To get into the local intercollegiate college for nursing education here in Spokane. So transferred to SCC. I have a AA there, did the rest of my prereqs. And then I got into Columbia Basin College in Pasco. So I got a 2-year degree there, and then went to WSU Richland campus for another 2 years part-time while I worked, and got my bachelor's degree. And then in 2020, I graduated from Gonzaga University in a master's degree in nursing leadership and healthcare.
Oh, that's amazing. What a journey. What a journey. And I love that it's, unique. That's the whole thing, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. You and me both. Similarly unique as far as that goes. So where are you from? And this can be answered in so many different ways. And I think you are going to. So go right ahead.
Yeah. I consider myself from Spokane. I was born in Bozeman, Montana, but only lived there for about 6 weeks for my mom to recover, and then because my dad had already moved everybody to Wyoming, Green River, Wyoming. And I lived there for about for 5 years, and then we moved to the valley. And I lived here until I was 20 when I got married. Lived in Tri Cities for 8 years, and then moved back when my youngest was born in 2001. No, yeah, oh 01. I'm like, wait a minute, when is he born? Yeah, oh 01. And so I really do consider Spokane my home.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
And it's a great place to consider home, at least in
I
my
think so.
biased opinion. Yeah. By
I
golly. I
agree.
I try and turn this into like a promo for the city of Spokane, and
I know, right? Yeah,
I'm
it
gonna
is a
look
great
for
place.
it is. I just no matter the rap it gets from, certain people about certain things, but we're gonna leave that alone. Um so a couple more questions here in the very intro, and then we'll just kind of figure out who you are. But as I ask everybody, what are the three words you would use to describe nursing school?
Yes. Um, I used the word challenging, fulfilling, and life altering.
Very good and very apropos words. So we'll find out why you picked those at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing myself a disservice. Maybe people now, by the time they hear this episode, are like, Eric, we've already figured it out, or we're going to work on figuring it out and not hear anything you guys have to say between now and the beginning. I don't know. But as of today, which people are going to hear this way later, but as of today, brilliant idea came to me while running, and I just love it. So, if you can continue this fine new tradition, I want to ask people what are your, and I know sometimes this can be difficult to narrow down, but what are your three favorite songs right now?
Well, I right now is really, I'm really glad you said that because music to me changes. My love for music changes, and I think everybody's favorite songs change.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I like to do when I can't really express how I'm feeling, I don't consider myself very articulate sometimes. So I like to use music to show my emotions. So if
Hmm.
my husband and I are having a difficult time, I might send him a song. Or if I have students that are having a difficult time, I like to send music to kind of express how I'm feeling.
Oh, I love that.
So right now, the three I like this summer, actually the last year has been kind of rough for my husband and I, and not in a
Hmm.
personal sense, but just in rough life. A lot of bad things happened. And so
Yeah.
um, right now, my one of my favorite songs is Don't Give Up on Me by, I just said his name, but I can't remember now. Oh, it's not Gavin DeGraw, it's the other
It
one.
started with an A, and it's the other one, not Gavin DeGraw, but it started with an A. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
How
But it's
about I
I
look
have
it up while you finish
you
answering the
look it up,
question?
yeah.
That's
Um
it. Teamwork.
um if you're
What
talking
was
about like, huh?
what was
It's
the name
called
of the song again?
Don't Give Up on Me.
There you go. All right.
Andy Grammer.
Boom.
Andy
You
Grammer.
didn't even need
You're
me.
right.
Done.
Andy Grammer. I really like that song. It's about a couple that are having a lot of maybe stress in their life, but they always come back together and hold their hands. And so anyway,
Hmm.
um, the other is called "This Is Me" from the Greatest Showman
Oh yeah.
um, album. That album, when I was going through a really rough time about in the right 2018, I think was when it first came out. I listened to that album for about 3 months solid. Anytime
Hmm.
I got into the car, that's the only thing I listened to is that whole album. It's a long album, but This Is Me talks a little bit about, hey, this is what you're going to get. What you see is what you get. I'm
Yeah.
going to be authentic and I'm going to be myself. So I like that one.
Hmm.
And then the one that I want my students to hear is called All I Know So Far by Pink. I don't know if you've
Ooh.
ever heard it,
No, not a
but
huge pink guy, but this is
oh,
the other. This is all. A lot of things come like selfish for me. My motivations in this. So I was like, I'm gonna ask people because I want to hear music that's outside of what I'm used to listening to.
it's my favorite to give to nursing students because it talks about how they're going to try to tell you who you are and they're going to try to tell you how to be. And you're going to come away with a lot of scars. And those scars, though, are what's going to help tell the story of your life and your world and who you are. And then it talks about how you want to break. It's okay that there's a crack in the wall because that's what lets the light shine in.
Oh,
And then it just is so to me like being a nurse. And then the best part is is throw your head back and spit in the wind. It's just there's a funny sort of part to it. But anyway, that is one I give to my students.
Oh, I
So
love it, and I can't wait to hear it. You know, and
yeah,
like
you'll
hearing
like it.
hearing you talk about that like gives me goosebumps. And
Yeah,
when I was like I said, this came to me while running my 140. I think I'm at 147th half marathon this morning, and
yeah,
I was listening to one particular piece that gave me goosebumps, which is always awesome. That's the power of music. Not so fun when you're
yeah.
trying to run, but otherwise it's and that's what I love about music. And I just feel like so
Hmm.
many people connect with music in so many different ways, like you said.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
wrote a piece years ago about how it acts as a time machine. You can listen
Hmm.
to a song and it takes
Yes.
you straight to a moment, straight to a person, straight to an event, or a
Yes.
time in your life. And I just love that. So, all right, we can
In
talk.
fact,
Go ahead.
well, I want to tell you something really quick. It was so
Please
funny
do.
because I was just
Please
in
do.
Montana with my family camping, and we were playing cards, and on the somebody was playing their phone, and it was Eddie Rabbit. I love a rainy night,
Oh, yeah.
and
Great song.
it brought me right back to my the house across the street in our basement roller skating when we were 6 years old, 8 years old, whatever.
Wow.
And so I'm totally, yes, that is exactly what it does for me too.
I literally, I wasn't even, what I was going to say was, I'm going to stop us here because we could talk the whole episode about this. I genuinely feel like we could.
Yeah,
Audio files that we both apparently are. But yeah,
yeah,
that reminded me like that if I listen to like Prince, for example,
yeah,
I
yeah.
am in my buddy, and I'm just shouting him out here. Ace Agaluz.
Yeah.
I'm in his basement with his family. You know what I mean? Like we're friends, and we're making videos and all that. But Prince was a huge like that's that.
Mhm.
The Queen for me takes me to high school. Yes, I'm
Yes.
old, but I'm not that old. But the
No,
point.
I know, but still, the songs are
Oh,
ageless.
yeah, so good.
So
Anyway,
yeah.
like I said, we're gonna, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy episode 1 of Tera, where we discuss everything music related. You're gonna have a list of music to listen to by the time we're done. Uh, After every question I ask you now you must come up with a song that relates to that question. Just kidding. All right, so
Okay.
let's dig into the nitty gritty. Let's dig
Okay.
into the nitty gritty. All right, so you just mentioned I like to give this to my students, which kind of clues me in on the fact that you might not just be a bedside nurse. What is it that you do currently? Or if you don't mind, let's just open up the whole like nursing career path.
Sure. When I graduated in 95, yes, I'm old. Um, I started at a nursing home. Back in 95, there was no nursing shortage. So we had to fight for the jobs in the hospital. And I had chosen not to get a job right away, but to come up to Ross Point Camp and Conference Center in
Hmm.
Post Falls and be the camp nurse for the summer.
Mhm.
So while I did that, then when I went back, I didn't have a job. So I went to a nursing home and I lasted 2 days. The
Oh.
first day I left bawling my head off.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of them have name tags. I don't know who they are. I don't know what medicine
Mm.
I'm giving them. I don't know why I'm giving it. I don't know the whole rights. Okay.
Yeah, everything.
So my husband and my best friend were like, you just have to go back the next day. You have to try it again. And I went and I did my 8 hours and I walked into the director of nurses office and I said, listen, this isn't going to work for me. You don't have to pay me. You don't have to file any of the paperwork. I just wasn't here. She started laughing. She's like, no, I'll pay you. So I quit.
Oh.
So my first job ended up being that night, actually. I got a call from a friend who worked at a business health clinic doing drug screens and physicals for the Department of Transportation. So I did that till I could get into the hospital. And then I
Yeah.
worked 3 years in med surge. Best thing I ever could have done, in my opinion.
Awesome.
I did a year as a public health nurse, and then I was trying to think, I think about 20 years as bedside labor and delivery.
Wow.
Within that, all but probably 2 years was charge nurse, assistant unit manager. I did manager for a year, and then I became the hospital supervisor. And this was all at Deaconess here in Spokane.
Yeah.
Did hospital supervisor for 2 years while I was getting my master's. And then when I was near finishing, I got a job at Kootenai, being their nurse educator. Now, this was in COVID times, so I didn't really get to do a ton of nurse education. I did more training for labor pools and how to team nurse and things like that.
Yeah.
And then I had sort of a life altering experience, and I decided I didn't want to be a nurse anymore. Um,
Mm.
and I quit. And I worked at Macy's. I sold fine jewelry from November and December.
I love it. I love this. I didn't even know this about you. This is so exciting.
Yeah, November, December, January. It got really boring after Christmas. And then I got a job at Ritter's Garden and Gift, which is a nursery, plant nursery and big gift shop up on the north side.
Yeah.
And I worked there for a year. Um, right before I started, Gonzaga had called me and asked me if I would come back as an adjunct clinical instructor because I
Yeah.
actually had been a clinical instructor for OB for 2 years
Oh,
prior. But when
nice.
I got the full time job at Kootenai, you couldn't do it. So I went back to doing clinical only, and I did that for a year, and then got asked to teach a class, a semester, Pathofarm 2.
Hmm.
Did that for a semester, and then in the fall, I got last fall, a year ago, I got the full time faculty position. So I'm quite
Wow.
happy now where I'm at.
Wow. And I mean, that is quite the story. You are the first honored guest recorded that has that break from nursing in between. Did you,
Yep.
and out of curiosity, during that time, did you ever like, was there ever a longing to go back, or were you like, oh man, I made the right decision. I am not looking back at all?
Um, I've never regretted it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only reason at this point right now, because things change every day,
Yeah.
but right now, the only reason I would go back to the bedside is if financially I had to,
Gotcha.
and I would do it very cautiously because
Yeah.
it's done, and
Yeah.
I've moved into such a different place.
Yeah. You've accepted the closure of that chapter of your life for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't need the emergencies. I don't need the death. I don't need. I don't need it anymore. I love what I do now.
Yeah. And now you get to replicate the best parts of you in future nurses. And that to
I
me, like
try.
that's yeah. I can imagine there are plenty that would confirm this. But the truth of the matter is that's the thing. It's not addition. You are multiplying. It's multiplication. And that's what I like to
Mhm.
say. I'm like, I am not all that, but I'm gonna take the best parts of me. And if I can replicate that in future nurses, then by golly, you guys all start, maybe higher up than I did, and you can now take it to the next level. And that's great. That's all I care about. So let's dial it back to, and these are two slightly different questions. So
Okay.
the first question, of course, is who inspired you to become a nurse? And then why did you want to become a nurse?
Right. I grew up. And my parents were volunteer firefighters and first responders, EMTs. My dad retired after many years, and then my mom actually had gotten into it, and she wanted to be an EMT. My dad, to be a firefighter volunteer, you had to be a first responder. If you're a
Okay.
paid firefighter, you have to be an EMT. So he was a first responder, which is the step below an EMT. And then my mom became a firefighter and wanted that EMT. So I watched her and kind of watched the medical side of what she did. And then I was a year older than all my classmates. For I didn't get held back for academic reasons.
Ooh, now
I
we
was
get
a
into the
no.
salacious part of the
I want to
episode.
clarify this. I was a sickly asthmatic child,
There you
and
go.
I had pneumonia 5 times from January to October, and my pediatrician said, "Please don't put her in kindergarten quite yet." So anyway, I was older, so as an 18-year-old, the fire department, I asked them, could I can't do the firefighting because the smoke and the asthma, but I could do the EMT stuff. And they're like, sure. So they sponsored me, and I went to SEC my senior year and became the EMT, and then got to be with the volunteer fire department like that. So
Wow.
first, my mom sort of inspired the medical side of me.
Hmm.
But then when I got to be an EMT, it's my senior year in high school, and I'm watching the ambulance take off with all these patients. And I'm like, I don't, what happened? What happens? What'd you do?
What's the
So I
rest of the
ended up,
story?
exactly. You never get that rest of the story when you're in the emergency medicine. So I decided kind of right then and there, I want to be the person that they bring the patient to.
Nice.
And I didn't, at that point, I wanted to be an ER nurse. I learned when I was in med surg and was trying to decide where to go from there, my two options were women's health or critical care. And I'd done some ICU stuff and I chose women's health.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did. But that's kind of how it all became. I just, for all of my schooling, in fact, until my senior year, I thought I was going to be a teacher or a secretary because that's what girls did. And
Yeah.
I didn't know or think that there was something else I could do. So
Hmm.
that opened my brain to like, wait a minute, where are they going? What are they doing to them? So it was great.
So really, I mean, this now lifelong career can be credited to a moment of curiosity. Really? I mean, I feel like that's a
Absolutely.
shallow summary, but it's still like,
No,
yeah,
no, it was good. You know, a
yeah,
lot of our students, I hear them talking about how they go into nursing because they experienced something horrible like
yeah,
cancer or breaking a bone or
yeah,
whatever. They were in the hospital and they experienced the care they got from nurses.
yeah,
And my curiosity was more like, wait a minute, what happens next? I want to know. I want to keep helping them. I don't want to just watch them drive away.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And I mean, and that's what I love hearing, like you just said. A lot of people, when I ask that question, that is the answer. There's someone
mhm.
inspirational at a young age, middle age, whatever, and they, oh man, I want to be that person. For me, it was because of my wife. I don't like, quite honestly, because I grew up wanting to be a doctor, took a dovetail into the ministry, and coming out of that, knowing that
Right.
full time ministry was not the thing for me, I
Yeah,
was, my wife's like, well, I was like, I don't know. We had our first son. We're like, what are we gonna do? And I said,
exactly.
she's like, well, you should go back and finish wanting to become a doctor. I'm like, now it's a lot of time. Not only am I away from you, I'm away from my baby, I'm away from you both, and she's just straight up. And I had a career in medical records, and she was like, "Well, why not a nurse?" And there's just those moments where you go, "Huh,
Oh,
wait a second, God's speaking through my wife. I should probably listen." And
yeah.
so, no, it was like the more I thought about it, and the more I looked into it, it was like, no, that's more in line with what I want to do. But the thought prior to that moment never entered my mind, even being around healthcare.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And to move it even further, my senior year, I was dating my current husband now,
Hmm.
and he was a firefighter EMT, and his mom actually was a nursing instructor at SCC. She actually used to teach at the Deaconess School of Nursing. Yeah, and it closed down in the
Wow.
70s.
Yeah.
And she was a nurse for 42 years. So then having that in there and watching her, I'm like, I'm gonna do that someday. I'm gonna do that.
Wow.
That was part of my plan very early is I think I want to teach someday, but I needed to be ready to move away from the bedside.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's that old incorrect adage: if you can't do, you teach, right? Like, no, 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 no.
That's not
You can do
correct.
both. Let's do both.
Yeah,
Um,
and you have to have a passion for it because
that's exactly it. That's
yeah.
exactly it. So I have to ask this, even though you've touched on it in many different ways. I just loved how you put it on paper. So I'm going to ask the question, even though you've kind of answered it. Do you have any other healthcare workers in your family? Run the list by us, sister.
Okay, I'm going to start with my side. So my mom was EMT, dad was a first responder. My sister is has been a nurse for I think 17 years. She got her degree after me. I'm hit 29 years this fall. She's 17. And then on my husband's side, his sister is a nurse, has been a nurse for, she's probably close to 25, 26 years. His mom was 42 years. And then his brother's wife is a just retired as from being a pediatric nurse practitioner here in Spokane. So we've, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I get
Yeah.
people that are like, no, I'm the
And,
first one. And that's the
and
answer to the question.
it's terrible because at like Thanksgiving or something,
Yeah.
Tom's brother's a CPA. and his sister was worked in insurance, and
Oh
they would just
no.
sit like, "Can you guys stop now?" Because so it's always been a big joke, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're talking about, we and this has come up before with other nurses, has come up on this podcast about how those in the medical field are so numb to the things you talk about. So we'll be all
right,
eating lunch and dinner and we're all talking about all
yeah,
this disgusting things. And
yeah,
and you get like the CPA or whoever and they're like, this is Thanksgiving. Can you
yeah,
stop, please? No, thank you.
yeah. We've had to stop, and then we just laugh at him. He turns green, and we're like, "Oh, oh, okay, we'll stop, we'll stop."
I bet the conversation prior to family Thanksgiving dinner every year for him is just delightful. Like, okay, honey, we're going to the family dinner. Oh no, not this year. Please no, no, no,
Poor
no.
guy. Yeah,
Oh well, we're there for you, man. We're there. We feel you, even though we don't know what you're going through.
yeah.
On that note, go ahead and tell us about your family.
Well, today is my 31st wedding anniversary. I
31.
I started dating my husband when my senior year in high school. He
Wow.
was 25. He's 7 years older than I am. So he was 25. I was 18, and I got married at 20. I started nursing school on my 21st birthday. It was a Monday.
Wow.
We went to a tavern because we didn't have bar and grills.
Yeah.
We had really fancy or you had fast food. You didn't have this middle of the line, right?
Yeah.
It was even probably a step lower than Denny's, but we went to a tavern. I had my
there
first legal drink watching Monday Night Football.
you go.
And then we after about 5 years we had our first I needed to get done with school
Yeah.
because I did the long way, right?
Yeah.
My first son was born in 1998. He's 26. He lives in Cheney. He graduated from Eastern with a degree in manufacturing technology and works um, on building maintenance out at Fairchild Air Force Base.
Oh, awesome.
He's single. I try to push my students on him all the time, but it hasn't worked out yet.
Any ladies out there listening that are otherwise not,
He's a sweet, sweet boy.
please,
Sweet boy. But
please,
he's shyer than
email that
shy.
special email address that you
Yeah,
want to get a message to our
yeah,
honored guests. We'll make sure
yeah,
Tara gets that.
yeah. Just a shy kid. So, and then my youngest was born in '01. We moved back to Spokane in '01. Actually, we put our house on the market on September 11th of '01.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was like what's the world even going to look like? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so we've been back here since '01. He is 23. Got married at 21. So got married almost 2 years ago. No,
Okay.
it'll be 3 years in October.
Okay.
So he must have maybe he's 24. No, he's not 24. Shoot. Now I don't know. Anyway,
So apologies to the second son. Your mom is working on the math. We'll get back to you
oh,
later.
one. No, he's 23. I'm
There
right.
you go.
He's
Yeah.
23. Anyway, so he got married. I have a lovely daughter-in-law that he and her had started actually dating at around age 14 through youth group. They've known each other since they were way younger than that,
Yeah.
and they went to school together. So they have they actually currently are youth leaders at Spokane Valley Baptist Church, and he works in manufacturing for hoses, and she works at Barnes and Noble and out at camp, and we that's about it for our little family, and we have two
Oh.
dogs. Tom and I, because he's retired, he retired last year, and the kids have moved out since Adam was 19. Chris never did come back when he left at 18.
Mm.
Adam moved out at 19. So we've been kind of empty nesters for quite a while, and we have dogs. That's sort of our thing. They go with us everywhere. We take vacations with them. They are part of our family.
Yeah.
We lost our 9-year-old dog in May. That was
Yeah,
kind of
you
the
did.
crappy start of my summer.
Yeah.
And then I have Ziva, who is 4 years old, 4 years old. And then we just got a puppy this summer too, who is now just over 4 months old.
Oh.
And she is a lab border collie, which is what Gus was, and she's a doll. So we have
Oh,
been busy with them. Um, we name our pets after TV or movie characters. So
yes. I was gonna ask.
yeah, so Ziva's name is Ziva David Twite from NCIS.
Ha!
And Zoe is the puppy, and we had a hard time with Zoe because we liked the word Zoe, but we couldn't find like an actor or actress that.
And
So
it
we tried
needed
to
to
go
fit.
backwards.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
needed to fit. You started at point B and worked back
right.
to point A.
So her name is Zoe Gamora Twite. Gamora from
Yes.
um, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Her
Excellent.
real Gamora's real name is Zoe.
Yes. I
So there.
love that.
And I
Oh.
had a fish named Gibbs, but he died.
Oh.
And I had a snail named Gary, but that was a long time ago.
Gary, gosh, that's I can't imagine why the snail would be named Gary. All right. Um we'll leave that one there because everybody knows exactly where we're going with that one. On that last note about you, what are the various when you are not teaching, when you have this lovely summer and you're not raising toddler dogs, what hobbies and interests do you have? What keeps you busy?
Um, I love to read. I almost always read at night before I go to bed. It's really good for anybody out there to kind of shut your brain off from everything else. If you can really get into a good book till you're about to sleep, just put the book down and roll over and you're good.
Nice.
I also garden. I love flowers. So if you ever came to my house, you would see I have a lot of seasonal flowers in pots. A lot more than most people. I spent a little chunk of money on that one. In fact, at Ritter's, I'm not sure I had a paycheck, but um, I like flowers. I like to garden. We camp. We just got two four-wheelers, so we've been doing that. We have a boat, kayaks. I got a
My
stand-up
goodness.
paddleboard for Mother's Day. So we just like to be outside. That's a
I'm
big part of
catching a
it.
theme here. Yeah, short of the reading
So
thing at bedtime, but
when it's so hot, when it has been so hot this summer, we are like, no, thank you. We went to Montana and it was 75, and I'm like, this is wonderful.
yeah.
Of course, it was 40 at night and it got cold, but
That's okay. I'll take that all summer long. That's fine.
yeah,
That's me.
yeah,
That's me.
yeah. I think too, nursing has always been a hobby to me as well.
Hmm.
And that kind of got me into trouble when trying to cope with the hard parts of nursing.
Okay.
So now, yes, I have a hobby. I think teaching is my hobby too. I think
Hmm.
of it as that. I don't do it because of the paycheck. And a lot of people say that, but my husband's retired. We have a great pension. I don't really need this job. I
Yeah.
do it because I like it. I want it. So it also gives me the opportunity to work on different things within teaching that I wouldn't necessarily do because I like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
I think it's brilliant that you're able to live that out because yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I've made it very clear to the people that I work with and anyone that'll listen. Every once in a while, I'm like, if I didn't have 6 mouths to feed, I'd still do this, but I do it a
Yeah.
lot less. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right. Right. The schedule works so that I'm not full time. After I worked full time at Kootenai, I'm like, I'm never doing that again,
yeah.
ever. This is for the birds. I am too old for this. I'm so yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I love
so
it.
I'm
Anyway,
I'm gonna pivot here. I'm gonna ask you
okay,
one
pivot.
last question, and if you're fine with this, I'll still honor your time. We're gonna be done before your allotted time is done, but we are nearing what would be the traditional first episode length. So, if it's all right with you, let's turn Tara into a Tara twofer. Sound good?
A Tara Twofer.
Tara twofer, Tara twofer. We good for the Tara twofer?
I'm not Keith.
Nobody can see that. That's why this isn't
I know.
video. I've got the most ridiculous face on when I'm saying that. So you okay with me asking one more question, then we'll dive into a
Yes.
second episode? All right. So I just want to pick up on something you had just said and talked about nursing as a hobby. I've never heard that phrased that way before. For the benefit of our listening audience, what do you mean by that?
You know the old saying that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yes, we just heard it this morning in a previous episode I recorded, and it's ironically in the episode that Tara has
Yeah.
not heard from
No.
today. So that's the theme of
Yeah.
today. Sorry, go ahead.
I find that to be, well, it's okay. I find that to be very, very true.
Yeah.
People that go into nursing, if they don't like it, if they don't get up every morning looking forward to it, they're not going to stay.
Nope.
And it's because it's that hard, you know?
Yeah.
It's not something you can just deal with every day for a paycheck.
Yeah.
My husband feels the same way about when he was a fireman. He goes, I love going to work every day. I don't feel like it's work. Because if he didn't, the things that he saw, the things that he had to do, the things that he experienced, no one would do that
Yeah.
on purpose. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I felt with nursing is I never really probably up until COVID, I never hated going to work. I never dreaded it. There might be times where I needed, more sleep or time off or whatever. But I always loved everything that I did when I did it.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's a hobby. That's not a job.
Yeah. You do hobbies because you want to.
Want to.
Yeah.
And when I stopped wanting to, I stopped nursing for a while.
Yeah. And it's brilliant. I love it. I've just never heard it phrased that way. And now we're going to get t-shirts made. Tara's nursing as a hobby t-shirts. It's going to be great. And some, I don't know, hospital administrators are going to be like, what in the world are you guys talking about? So with all that, we're going to wrap this one up. Please, 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 everyone, jump on board to episode 2. In episode 2, we're going to talk about some personal challenges that Tara has faced, and more than that, we're going to pick her nursing instructor brain, and that's going to be intriguing both to other nursing instructors but also to nursing students as well. You get to kind of hear what goes on behind the scenes, things of that nature, what motivates Tara, what's going on there. So please don't miss it. Tara, we'll see you on the flip side.
Sounds good.
Here's what's happening on the next episode of Feeding Our Young.
I'm doing it to prevent it from happening to somebody else. I never drank in high school. I never drank until I was 21. The first time I was drunk was after a test in nursing school. I would never have been the person you'd guess would have a problem with that. But I just wanted to be numb. And when you are a nurse and you're in these situations that you don't expect to be in or don't know how to help yourself out of, you start to try to numb, and you numb and you numb and you numb and you numb. So I'm trying to teach my students how to not do that.
Did you like today's episode of Feeding Our Young? Let today's honored guest know by emailing us at thanks@feedingouryoung.org. Also, if you are a nursing student, nurse, or a nursing instructor and would like to be featured on a future episode, please email us a few details about yourself at the very special email address mystory@feedingouryoung.org. If you have a question you would like addressed in a future Q&A episode, please send it to q@feedingouryoung.org. For all other inquiries, please email us at info@feedingouryoung.org or text us at area code 509-ALL-THEM, 509-255-8436. We're so excited to have you return to hear our next honored guest. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Feeding Our Young LLC. Again, that's username Feeding Our Young LLC. Until next time, be encouraged and go find someone to encourage today.